Alrighty, let's just get into it. My top 10 games of 2022 that I enjoyed and appreciated. This time, my only honorable mentions would be stuff like Tinykin, Pentiment, and Citizen Sleeper, I guess. In 10th place, Sifu. I really appreciate this kind of action game for mixing up the mechanical formula of the genre. I've been talking recently about how sick I am of the Dark Souls-y formula, where it's just like dodge rolling with iframes to avoid every attack. Just swing, dodge, take your turn, attack, rinse and repeat forever. Sifu is much more interesting with its parrying and tight spot dodging chains and different command dodges and stuff. My only setback with Sifu is that I don't like constantly feeling like I'm losing something permanent. Like if I take a bit of damage, lose an entire life or whatever, it feels like I might as well go back and restart the whole level, which is more of a pain in the ass than it could be. I've also never been a fan of enemy RNG defense mechanics. I started to notice this trend a couple of years ago with like Yakuza 0, I think. In prior Yakuza games, like 5, enemies don't have the same defensive moves that they did as the series continued, but in Yakuza 0 is the major change, where anytime you swing, especially if you're playing the hardest difficulty, there's a certain RNG% chance for enemies to block it, or instantly dodge your attack, or anything like that. Now, thankfully, there are ways to play around that in Yakuza 0. You can create, like, awkward movements or use intentionally slow moves so it bugs out their AI, but it's still like awkward anti-gameplay where you are flooring and the enemy just like dodges half your shit and that's left up to random chance. You know, the difference between you stomping them into the ground and you having to catch up to them. Having reactionary stuff triggered based on what you do as a player is offbeat and normally doesn't make for a very good experience, so I don't love that enemies in Sifu often dodge or block or start up or stuff in mechanically unclear ways. So sometimes, if you do like weird sequences of inputs, rather than do a couple of attacks in a row, if you do like an attack and then a forward dodge and then like a different attack or something, maybe that's enough time for them to stop blocking and then they'll like randomly start up the animation for an attack, but then they get hit by your next attack. But sometimes they won't. But if you just kept attacking, it would just trigger their blocks or their dodges or something, and it's just like the enemy will just sometimes get hit by everything you do, and sometimes they won't, and the fight will take like 5 times longer. So I don't like that trend of enemy behavior. 9. Moonscars. This is one of those side-scrolling Metroid-like, Souls-like meldings comparable to Blasphemous, really similar. I think Blasphemous is more polished, and I like the boss fights and the progression systems in Blasphemous more, but Moonscars just plays so fucking good. It's like the Bloodborne to Blasphemous' Dark Souls. It just has satisfying, smooth, fun gameplay. It has some weird mechanical decisions, some very baffling directorial choices. The perks you get in a single life don't make much sense for the way the game is designed. The feeling of progression is weird because your money/XP resource is completely useless after you buy the couple of things that you want it for. But the game has great level design, great gameplay, great exploration, great overworld level design, which Metroidvanias usually struggle with. The game never gets tedious to travel from point A to point B. The movement systems are built with micro and macro exploration in mind, without relying on fast travel, and the movement feels very good to do. So, very fun game. 8. Signalus. I wish this game could be higher on my list, but from here it's like cream of the crop. Games that are so good, I had difficulty ranking them without feeling guilty, you know? This game is pure classic survival horror experience. Everything is just liquid joy here. The awkward item management and the clunky combat, the oppressive map exploration, the gorgeous art style. There have been games in the last 10 years or so that people have told me or I've seen recommended that feel like classic survival horror, but to me they felt more like modern games going back in taking some overarching mechanics or formula of it and just kind of going through the motions, but this feels like stepping right back into Silent Hill 2. It does a great job of taking those classic Silent Hill and Resident Evil staples and wearing its references on its sleeves and stuff and remixing them without refreshing them at all. All of the weird psychosexual stuff, but under the guise of this sci-fi story about decaying android technology made for off-planet mining and shit, and their neural network links and manipulations. This game is so unique, and it's a must-play for survival horror fans. 7. King of Fighters 15. I don't know how to review a fighting game still, since all the content is in the player interactions and the competition, which is kind of universal. It'd be like judging a game based on the speedrunning community's exploitation of its glitches. Still, I like the game. It has good netcode and stuff. It's a good fighting game. Everybody likes it. 6. I Was a Teenage EXO Colonist. Again, this game could easily be someone's game of the year, and it was for people, quite a few people I saw. It's just this very fun mixture of ideas, the incredibly well realized and creative sci-fi world, how everything connects to everything in the writing, the technology, to the culture, to the environment for children and adults and their relationships and their external conflicts surviving on this alien planet, and it just has a great understanding of all of those things. It has the creepy, deep sci-fi mystery elements of like multiverse and visions of future events and alternate life paths and shit going on, and it's all welded together in very clever ways. Of course, the most obvious appeal is the complex emotional whiplash the game puts you through of basically playing what is a child simulator with like the cute childlike roleplay and childish innocence and all the cute, likable, charming characters and art style and such, versus the incredibly bleak realities of living on this failing, stranded colony. This game has so much content, bonus content on New Game Plus with more visions of the future that allow you to do new actions, new scenes, so many different characters and paths to explore with your little time, just a million fucking scenes that you'll never get all of in 50 playthroughs. There's over 50 endings. It's just so much content, it's wild. The game is super good. 5. The Case of the Golden Idol. I actually think this is the most polished and the most perfect game of 2022. But it's also pretty small, so it's hard to say that it beats some of the bigger titles. If you're a fan of like whodunit books, you know, if even when you were a kid, if you read those short like 3-page mystery whodunit where you have to read this limited description of events and these details and then use a fine-tooth comb to go back over the information until you pick out all the cleverly hidden clues and slowly break down what happened. But yeah, this is peak. This is one of the only mystery solving games that is pure mystery solving, pure, like, gradually just observing and understanding without anything being explained to you. You know, so, take, like, Phoenix Wright, where you get all the evidence, but really you, as the player, what you're doing is you're just answering one very pointed question at a time. You know, they put you in a situation, they're like, how does this contradict with the evidence? You know, etc. Case of the Golden Idol just plops you into a freeze-frame scenario with no net and expects you to slowly study all of the info over and over until you eventually, with confidence, deduce what happened. And it is so well polished. It has a great variety of types of whodunit, types of things to piece together, scenarios. It has this fun and surprising overarching plot told through these cases that delves into different genres, and it's just fucking awesome, man. 4. Immortality. This is a game that's kind of hard to sell the appeals of. I would not have put it this high after first beating it. I had to sit with it to appreciate it more. Like, the concept is super interesting. It's a pseudo-fictional historical biopic formed from shelved movie footage of the career of a talented actress who only ever appeared in 3 movies, all of which were never released for unknown reasons. It's like piecing together a documentary, seeing how these movies were made, the on-set culture, the film culture, background of the film industry through the different years, career paths and choices of the people involved, etc. What's most amazing to me, the nuttiest thing, is that they made 3 full-length movies for this game. Like, not even fake bullshit movies like you usually see in most media to serve as a placeholder for a fictional movie within a movie or something. They put the effort and creative work into making and shooting 3 entire movies and, like, the backdrops for the set production of these movies and stuff that actually feel like high-quality productions of the time and films that you would watch from these time periods and accurate to the time periods and such. And there's just so much to praise, so much that is amazing about Immortality. And that's not even getting into the spoiler territory of the batshit insane direction that the plot goes into once you start to unpack it. It's extremely interesting in many different ways, and it's something I've loved more as I've thought about it and as I've gone back to it. 3. Elden Ring. Yes, contrary to what some people think, I do like Elden Ring. My 2-hour review of it is mostly me complaining about shit, because that's just how I talk and look at stuff. I hate being like this cog in the wheel stating the obvious. You know, my videos are not particularly... My personality's not that entertaining. My videos and editing skills are not that high quality, so what value would they have if all I'm doing with these videos is just stating the same shit everyone else is already stating? So yes, everything I bitched about in Elden Ring is still accurate to my feelings, you know, and overall I liked it probably less than most fans of it, but it's still obviously a really good game with a massive amount of content to engage in. You don't need me to tell you this shit that you know. 2. God of War Ragnarok. Just a really solid game. Like, it's more creative than I was expecting, than you would expect for this kind of title. And yeah, I mean, it's fucking awesome. You know, everything works. Gameplay, story, progression systems, post-game content. I played this on the hardest difficulty, and yeah, it's really satisfying, and it's just solid. It's good. 1. Neon White. What can I say? I was grinding the fuck out of those leaderboards. Extremely fun speed game, and its core design of hitting speedrun times. I've been thinking about this kind of like input to output relationship of challenge in gameplay. You know, I've been more and more mentally critical of games like Elden Ring or stuff, where there's this binary objective of like, did you beat this enemy or not? You know, did you kill or did you die or whatever? And your effort is not necessarily completely one-to-one related to your outcome. It's not that hard to clear the arbitrary challenge of just completing it, so it's hard to judge the level of challenge or lack thereof. Whereas, like, speedrunning gameplay is much more fluid in your response to your success and your mistakes. If you play slightly better in Neon White, you get a slightly better time. There's no annoyance to it. It is the most honest and pure form of translating your actions to your results possible. We need more games where speedrunning is the main mechanic, because this is where you can really see the fruits of your labor in terms of challenge. And yeah, I played the fuck out of it. I was at a time in a whimsical realm in the past. I was top 50 for overall global times. I doubt I'm still there, but yeah. Anyways, that's about it. Sorry it took so long to get these out, but I was binging the fuck out of TV shows and movies for weeks to get up to date with everything, and it took a while. So anyways, see ya.